What's up, you guys? Welcome to The Imagination. I'm your host, Emma, and today I'm absolutely honored to have on the show ritual abuse, organized abuse, and governmental mind control survivor, whistleblower, and overcomer, published writer and author, podcaster, rapper, R&B singer and songwriter, artist, content creator, and a guest many of you on the other side of the screen who have been paying attention to the survivor movement over the years will be just as excited to hear from as I am. James Casbolt, aka Michael Prince, as some of you might know him. Born into a lineage steeped in British intelligence, James was ensnared in a world of espionage and manipulation from childhood. He was subjected to the notorious MKUltra programs where his abuse began at a secretive facility in Nelson, British Columbia, also known as Base 9, where children, including himself, were abducted and conditioned under Project IBIS, a program tied to the creation of manufactured super soldiers. At the heart of his story lies the Dulce base, an underground military complex in New Mexico that has been testified on this channel before, shrouded in conspiracy and whispered to house unthinkable experiments involving advanced technology and extraterrestrial entities. James witnessed and endured unimaginable horrors there, including trauma-based mind control programming designed to forge emotionless operatives capable of executing covert missions without hesitation. He speaks of being trained as an assassin, tasked with eliminating threats to the shadowy agendas of global intelligence networks, including a mission to neutralize a rogue super soldier who had stolen a nuclear device. Yet James's story is not one of defeat, but of defiance. Despite the psychological chains of mind control programs designed to isolate him and enforce compliance, he broke free from the mental prison imposed on him. His awakening began as he pieced together fragmented memories, connecting the dots between his experiences and the global workings of intelligence agencies like MI6, the NSA, and the CIA, which he testifies operated a vast drug trafficking network to fund Black operations. His book, MI6, Agent Buried Alive, lays bare these allegations, offering raw, unfiltered glimpses into a world where power, secrecy, and betrayal intertwine. James's courage to speak out has come at a cost. Much of his past has been mysteriously erased, and he has faced imprisonment with speculations that it was a move to silence him. Yet, even from behind bars, his voice resonated, amplified by investigators like Miles Johnston, who documented his claims of Nazi SS connections, advanced technology, and extraterrestrial involvement in covert programs. Released only a few years ago, James continues to share his story, warning of looming global events and the need for humanity to awaken to hidden truths. What makes James's testimony so compelling is not just the horrors of his abuse and his incredible story, including reptilian entities, underground bases, and mind-controlled assassins, but the unbreakable human spirit that shines through him. He transformed from a pawn in a covert game to a beacon of resistance and hope, risking everything to expose a web of control threatening humanity's freedom. His story challenges all of us to question the unseen forces shaping our world and to find the strength to stand against oppression, no matter the odds. His life is a testament to the power of truth and resilience. From the depths of MKUltra's psychological warfare and the mysteries of Dulce Base, he emerged not as a victim, but as a warrior for awareness, urging us all to open our eyes, confront our shadows, and reclaim our sovereignty. James's legacy is a call to action, to seek truth, to question authority, and to never surrender the spark of humanity that burns within us all. And before I wrap up the introduction of today's guest, I'd like to share just a couple of quick reminders and updates. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, if you wanted to share any information privately with me, or if you were interested in submitting a written testimony to be featured in a Substack article, you can reach out to me via email at imagineabetterworld2020@gmail.com or standbysurvivors@protonmail.com. Additionally, I've teamed up with a couple of my favorite brands to offer you guys exclusive discount codes on products I love, including Rife Technology frequency machines and CZTL's Premium Methylene Blue. You can find all the relevant links and codes along with other resources down below in the show notes. I've also recently started up a new YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to me there at the handle at Imagination Podcast Official that I am now streaming new episode premieres from weekly. Turn on your notifications and join our loving community in the live chats every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Thank you all wholeheartedly on the other side of the screen for helping to make the imagination the safest space on the internet for survivor, whistleblower, advocate, and educator disclosures. Your support means the absolute world to me and to every guest on this show. So, you guys, without further ado, please help me in welcoming today's guest of honor, voice for the voiceless, walking miracle, content creator, warrior of truth, survivor, and anti-child abuse advocate, and a courageous whistleblower who can't be stopped or silenced. The one, the only, James Casbolt. James, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's an honor to have you on.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's wonderful to have you. Your
Yeah.
testimony was actually one of the first I found on my journey, and especially one of the first male testimonies that I had heard when I
Mm.
started my journey of learning that the world around me wasn't the world that I thought it was. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you've done for this movement. You know, you've been speaking out for a long time. You've had your share of ups and downs, your share of targeting, of repercussions for doing it. And you're still here today, and you've helped a
Yeah.
lot of us learn. You've given a lot of people voices, and we're where we are today in our disclosure community because people like you had the courage years ago to come forward. So thank you.
Yeah, I've just been on a 48-hour remote viewing session, like a ceremony. Um, I was saying on another podcast that I've just done that I have not done any remote viewing for years. So it's the first remote viewing that I've done for years. Um,
Interesting. Do you want to share
so,
a little bit about
yeah,
that?
I was remote viewing the incoming, the Atlas comet that everyone's been talking about. And it's gone behind the sun. And what it does when it comes round the sun towards the planet is going to be quite very telling, very important. But it seems to be communicating with a moon on Saturn. And I just did a couple of printouts actually, um, just to give some context on
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
I think a lot of people who've researched this area know about the connections with Saturn and the black cube.
Yes, if you want to share a little bit more about that, you're more than
Yeah,
welcome to.
well, the black cube is, I did this printout here. Some of the UAPs that have been mentioned are in the form of black cubes. And then the black cubes turned up here in Penzance in Cornwall in the sea. I took this photograph myself.
Oh, wow.
So that's just taken it near the water near Penzance, but aliens haven't put them there. That's the government that's put them there. And I'm not 100% sure why they've put them there. It almost looks like the cube from Hellraiser, the one at the top. Um, I think it could be an art installation, but it's like a stop, look, and listen notice by the government, because people are talking about the black cubes, but what are they? What do they mean? What are they being used for? And I think it's in a lot of billboard advertising, they use subliminal images, subliminal advertisements, and it's basically pictures of sex and death hidden in the images. And that's what, from what I can conclude, that is what this technology is being used for. They're projecting these images on a subliminal level, similar kind of images, out to the mass population. And this connects to the Comet Atlas and its communication with one of the moons of Saturn. This is what I remote viewed. So, but that's all I've got so far on it. It's the cubes and the connections with subliminal imaging. It's almost like they've been used as cameras, a type of camera.
What do you speculate will end up happening with it, even if you don't have all the information? Do you have any
Um,
theories in your mind?
well, I think we'll know more as the comet gets closer, but I've also wanted to remote view because there's been a lot of talk about the secret space program since
Mhm.
recent. And but the thing is with that is it's pretty quiet out there from what I can see in the remote viewing session. It's not it's the solar system isn't teeming with life. It's pretty quiet. There's a lot of ruins where it seems like there's been a war a long time ago, and there were possibly billions of citizens of some kind of empire a long time ago, but there seems to be a war that's wiped out that infrastructure. So it seems to be very quiet out there, and there's things floating around that are in cryostasis, and solar system's definitely not teeming with billions or trillions of galactic citizens.
One of the things that I really loved about your testimony, and that still was way before its time even today, was how your testimony does tie in the government mind control programs and their usage of training and conditioning children, the
Yeah.
advanced technology, as well as these extraterrestrial beings. Because I'm sure you know by kind of looking at the landscape, we have these different little pockets of communities. We have the disclosure community, which is the UAP, UFO kind of alien abduction community. And then we also have the child trafficking community. And then aside from that, we have kind of the governmental mind control MK Ultra community. And they've all been separate from each other and they don't
Mm.
really cross paths. But in my opinion, after listening to testimonies like yours and many others who have gone through these government mind control programs as children, to me, they're all very interconnected. And I feel like your story really demonstrates the interconnectedness of all of these things and that we should be looking at them together and holistically instead of just looking at a UAP like a separate thing from the government, and that it doesn't
Mm.
have anything to do with anything here on Earth. We're just supposed to look up at the sky.
Yeah, I mean, it it connects this technology connects directly to the MK Ultra programs, and you, well, again, I'm talking about using advertisement, billboards, and media using subliminal messages,
Yes.
and the UAP, the black cubes, they seem to be using similar technology, so it's definitely connected.
Yeah.
Those two areas are.
And you've definitely testified, even if it wasn't a black cube, you had seen different craft and different technologies as weapons that the
Mm.
public didn't have access to. Even when you were in the programs, there were things that you had access to and the people around you, but not
Yeah.
public.
I think because it after I've been remote viewing for 48 hours straight, so I'm really tired, and I'm finding it difficult to access the kind of alters or the crash retrieval stuff
That's okay.
that I've seen. So maybe if you could be a bit more specific with the questions to what I've seen regarding different crafts, and I could try and tap into that.
Absolutely. In fact, why don't we just, if it's okay with you, for people who are new here, and I obviously want to give some context about your story before we dive into some details.
Yeah.
Do you want to share a little bit about the family that you were born into and how you got into these programs to begin with? And
Yeah, I mean, I was born into a British intelligence family. There's a lot of, like, my uncle was a British intelligence officer. Well, I was raised in this family. I wasn't born into it. It's very controversial. My uncle was an MI5 officer in logistics. My father was involved. And I mean, before I got out of prison, they took about four or five of the most troubled prisoners and put us all together in a room. I was one of them, and that, four or five, that's saying something because there was a lot of troubled people there. And then they let us go, and then they said, I think there were some psychologists. They said the reason you guys are here is because of your mother's brutality. And but I don't know whether they were scapegoating because the length of the sentence was brutal. It was decided in the court of law that it was too excessive and reduced because it was too harsh. And so maybe they were scapegoating, trying to blame other people in the background to say that because of the length of the sentence was brutal. But I'm not, there is definitely this thing called the hidden epidemic, which is Kathy O'Brien talks about being programmed from really young age. but it's like dads doing it to daughters. But the hidden epidemic is the other side of the coin. It's female on male violence, which isn't, it doesn't come in the form of, outright. Well, that there's that too, but it can be more insidious and more covert. And there's definitely the hidden epidemic is a reality, and it's definitely female on male violence, definitely mother on son violence. You know, so whether that's what the prison officials were tapping into and talking about, or whether prison officials were trying to shift blame because the length of the sentence was brutal, and they were trying to shift blame away from themselves. There's not that conclusion hasn't been reached yet.
And so how old were you, or at least from what you remember, when you were put into these programs? Was it right at birth or was it a couple years later in your childhood?
It was similar to Kathy, straight at birth. Yeah, I was actually I spent the initial years of my life at the base, and there was a rescue, and then I was brought to Canada. No, I was in Canada, and I was brought to Toronto. Mum says that we were in Toronto then, and brought back to the UK.
Wow. And so talk a little bit about the bases and the locations that you were taken to, because some of that,
Well, when I went to the, sorry, some of that what?
I was going to say, some of what you testify has been testified by other survivors. And at the
Mm.
same time, some of your story is very unique to your experience. And so I'd love to educate people on what you went through,
Yeah.
where
Well,
that
when
was at.
well when I came back from Canada, we went to London for a bit, and then we'd gone to Reading in Berkshire, and I went to school right next to the Peasmore base, just in the Buck, because the Peasmore base is quite well known now, and it's obviously known for being deep in the Berkshire countryside.
Yeah.
Because Reading is in Berkshire, and Reading's just outside London. So the school was deep in the Berkshire countryside, and it was right next to the base. So I'd come out of one base in Canada, gone to London, then gone to Reading, Berkshire, and gone to school right next to the base. And another witness, Sophia Green, has come out, and she went to school at Deanfield at the time I was there. So she was there. She lived right next to me, and she said the programs were going on from the school.
Do you remember being taken to that specific base?
Yeah, it was just round the corner from the school.
Yeah.
I just used to go to the dentist in Pangbourne round the corner, and then from there on, just over to the base, which was yeah. So we're always going on trips.
For
Uh,
school?
yeah, for school trips, and yeah, because my stepfather worked right next to the base as well. And there's recent documents come out that his company, it was a metal company, aluminium, was supplying metals. Somebody accessed it for the Freedom of Information Act. And the official documents have come out and said my stepfather's company had defense contracts with the Ministry of Defense and was supplying metals to the underground bases and the military bases there in the Berkshire countryside. So whether I don't know whether it was exotic metals or what kind of metals. Officially, it was aluminium.
Wow. So you
Mm.
had potentially multiple ways and people.
Yeah, it's coming at me from every angle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so what types of things were you conditioned for as a child that you can remember? Did the remote viewing start very young
yeah,
or?
yeah. Remote viewing. I haven't done it. It comes to me when I'm during periods of stress, when I'm like lost and think, what is my part in life? Why am I even here? And then when my daughter was in hospital for some serious, she's some open heart surgery. I
Oh,
went through some really powerful remote viewing sessions then when I was under a lot of pressure. Um, 'Cause the last couple of days I've been under a lot of pressure. So I almost did it automatically, but I've been in it for 48 hours. It was like a 48-hour ceremony. and I pulled out a lot about these black cubes and the comet atlas, which people might be interested in. People seem interested in the atlas, but for me, I need to know what's out there and what's coming our way, and I need to know my part for the future.
When you were young, being used for remote viewing, what types of things would they have you remote view?
Um, Space things a lot of the time, like I've been doing the last 48 hours, and other governments competing with each other. Yeah, got I got my Texas hat here, which
Love.
I'm just the only reason I'm putting it on is because just to show that I'm not. Um, I support all the nations. I still support Texas and the United States.
I love
So
it. And that's
it
another
not.
interesting thing about your story is your abuse and the programming that you were involved with, these programs did span multiple countries. You were in the United
Yeah.
States. Could you talk a little bit about your time in the United States, in New Mexico?
Um, yeah, I mean the countries were competing against each other. Like the obviously the UK and the US were competing against what's known as the BRICS nations now: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So it's not like I totally become complete communist since I've got out of prison and gone over to the BRICS. I don't support one nation above another nation. But when I was in the States, in the UK, remote viewing, they had me on a chair, the trip seat, and it was the nations competing against each other, part of the UAP super soldier program. I don't really like using the term super soldier, but there's definitely competition to get access to the UAP technology, like a Cold War. And I don't think anybody's even picked this up about the black cubes and what actually, the comet, Atlas comet, is communicating with one of the moons on Saturn. I don't think anybody's actually ever picked that up. This is the first time it's been talked about. And actually, the black cubes are turning up in Penzance. What actually they're being used for? And they're being used as a kind of camera to embed subliminal images.
Wow. Yeah, that is really fascinating. I think that it's wonderful that you and others who, grew up having to use your talents for people that wanted to exploit you, that now you're able to use a gift like remote viewing on your terms. You get to do what you want with it now. You don't have to
Mm,
report to these, evil people who are using it for their own agendas.
yeah. Well, they're having the conference hearings. That's Ryan Graves at the bottom there. And he mentioned the black cubes, but nobody's actually really talked about, well, what are they? What are they there for? What are they being used for? So hopefully I can help out in that way.
Yeah, what do you speculate they're being used for?
Um, Obviously, we've established that they're using subliminal messages like marketing, doing advertising. They put hidden messages, images of sex and horror, like death images hidden in it, and it's it's. I won't get into psychology too much because when I was in prison, I did a degree in political science, and I had to study the scientist Karl Popper, and he was an expert in establishing the veracity of information. He was basically an expert in establishing the difference between pseudoscience and science. And he thought very much that psychology lent towards a pseudoscience. And I could mention psychology. I could say that the reason why advertisement billboards use hidden images of sex and death hidden into their advertisement is because the unconscious mind responds very strongly to anything to do with sex and anything to do with death. But I lean on the side that psychology is more of a pseudoscience. I agree with Karl Popper's conclusion. I agree that there's much more. There's what's happening is much more material than psychology would conclude. I think there's much more there. And I think the some of the images of they're definitely of the dog men, and well, I did a podcast when I came out of prison. Somebody asked me about my dogman experiences. I didn't want to talk about it because I was almost a bit embarrassed. And they explained to me that since I've come out of prison, Dogman has become very popular. There's all radio shows, and I went on one Dogman and Paranormal. They said they're having there's a lot of Dogman experiences with the homeless in San Bernardino in California. That's where I had my Dogman experience in San Bernardino in the mid broad daylight, fully conscious and there was homeless people there. So they confirmed what I've said. So I felt safe enough in a safe enough space to talk about my experiences. And that links to the Saturn cubes and these images that have been subliminally projected. A lot of them are dog men, very horrific images hidden in the hidden in billboard advertisements. And yeah, I saw two dog men in San Bernardino in 2013 before I came back to Cornwall.
Wow. And
Mm.
you, in your life, you've had a lot of sort of supernatural experiences, seeing beings and entities that the general
Yeah.
public is very uneducated that exists. Could you talk a little bit about how these different entities that,
Mm.
especially that you saw growing up, what
Yeah.
is their relationship to the government and why were they involved with
Well,
your programming?
the Dogman and Paranormal YouTube channel talks about the dogmen have been attacking the homeless communities in San Bernardino, and they're being engineered at Dulce and things like that. So can you still hear? Can you
Yeah,
still hear me? Yeah.
yeah.
And so the two dogmen that I saw, this wasn't an underground base. This was in broad daylight in the middle of the city, in the middle of the afternoon. I'd just been picked up by a friend from the train station, and there was like a handler, like a government handler, had the two um, dogmen on a leash on the side of a road. We turned around the corner and the street was empty, and I said to my friend, "Look, there's a homeless guy with two bears on a leash." Because you're not going to think, oh, look, dog men. When you see it in broad daylight,
Right.
you try and rationalize it, and you try and rationalize. I thought it was a homeless guy with two bears on a leash. He had long hair, was long dark hair with sunglasses. These two huge beasts on a leash. We drove past and he let them go, and they started chasing the jeep we were in. And my window was open. One of them tried to bite my arm through the open window. And then he accelerated off, and I looked back, and they were running after the Jeep on two legs, bipedal. But they looked more like wolves close up. They looked like bears far away when you had them on the leash. Um, so that he was like a government handler of these things. So that, to answer your question, that's an example of the interaction between the government and the entities. But he's probably a full-blown magician. Um, Probably a full blown occultist.
What other types of entities have you encountered?
Reptilians, crash retrieval site in Goodwood in Sussex in 2009. And that was actually filmed. That's the famous Goodwood crash retrieval footage. And there was reptilians there, these tall 7, 8 foot things, white skin, big skull type beings with big horns. But I wasn't fully conscious then. I was like in sort of naval intelligence delta crash retrieval mode, with my implants all activated around my head and on the back of my neck. But the dogmen that I saw in San Bernardino, I was fully conscious as I am now. And that was in broad daylight. The Goodwood crash retrieval with the reptilians was late at night.
And did you experience any of these entities at the Dulce base that you were at too in New Mexico?
Um, I mean, I saw a lot of things in cages at the Canada base, the Dulce base, and the Peasmore, Berkshire base.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so a lot of things in cages, and for some strange reason, it's difficult to activate those altars and try and gain access to them tonight.
That's okay.
Um, That's what I'm trying to explain. What I've seen fully conscious in broad daylight. The
Yeah.
main two are the dogmen and the reptilians in the crash retrieval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, in your opinion, and obviously a lot of people have these same beliefs, the government is manufacturing things like the dogmen and
Mm.
releasing them onto the public.
Well, there was Bill Schnoebelen, the whistleblower, talks about he was a 33rd degree Mason, quite high-ranking Satanist, and high-ranking Satanist. He says the dogmen are being used as to guard the rituals, and he said that he was asked by the police to investigate a missing child case. I think it was up near Michigan somewhere, and it was two young boys had been riding around at night around a rubbish dump, and they came across a group of Satanists doing a ritual there, and because they do it in like dirty places like rubbish dumps, things like that, and the next thing they know, they were getting chased by this wolf thing. It was stood off to the side, and when they saw that the ritual had been disturbed and interfered with, this dog man chased the two boys, got the first one. The second one was riding off like as fast as his little legs would carry him, and a claw came round his chest, and he screamed, "Oh Jesus!" And the thing like let go, and he managed to get away. But the first boy had disappeared. And that's why Bill Schnoebelen, as an expert by experience, was asked to come in by the police to shed some light on it. And his conclusion was that the dogmen are being used to guard the security of the rituals. But this was years ago. I don't know whether they still are.
That's horrifying. And yes, there's a
It
lot of
is.
people now testifying very similar, if not the same information, and having the courage to come forward and share these sort of paranormal experiences that can be very unbelievable for
It sounds ridiculous. It sounds totally unbelievable. I get that. Dogmen, you're talking about werewolves, talking about, and they talk like Bigfoot type things, but they're a bit different to Bigfoot. But so many people have seen them now.
exactly.
That's the thing. And they're physical animals. I think there may be links to one of the moons of Saturn with them as well.
Oh,
That
interesting.
particular species.
And so for you, when you were a child, you were actually you were kind of abducted into and kidnapped into the situation that you were in, correct?
Yeah.
So how did that happen and how long did that abuse happen in your life? What age where did it end?
Um, Things started to tone down when I came out of prison,
Okay.
and I was being almost prepared for new roles then, and being like as a musician and entertainer and going into politics and things like that. So I needed the pressure to be off me so I can perform. So there's massive pressure on me constantly. I can't really perform that well. And obviously, if you're going to be a politician, it's just an actor, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how did this abduction take place whenever you were a child? Do you remember it at all?
Um, well, there was different types. There was military, government ones, and there was on top of the alien ones, non-human intelligence. Yeah, I mean, and from school as well in Berkshire, just going on trips, school trips. And obviously, Sophia Green has testified to this as well because she was at school with me in Deanfield. So it's good that other people who were there are coming forward now.
Absolutely. We need more of that. For these school trips, was this under gifted and talented programs by chance? Were they
Yeah, but some of them were troubled um, children
okay?
as well. I was in the troubled child class.
So they'd separate you out and then
Yeah,
take you guys off the school site onto these bases right next to it.
yeah, because we didn't really have to travel that far. So,
So how's the military tie into all of this? We know that there's the technology that's being harbored and used by the government. The government's
mm,
working and creating these different entities and beings. Um,
yeah.
how does the military fit into this big picture?
Well, I was officially in the military here's my yearbook here, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Oh, wow.
So, and I left on December 21st, 2012, which is the end date of the Mayan calendar. And by that point, I was on the Mexican border in southern Texas at the time. So, and they they definitely brought the brought the training and conditioning and operations of the super soldiers up a notch when I was officially in the military. I was involved with the Mormon church there as well when I was in Missouri, and it was a pretty good shot. Probably one of the best shots in the company. A company is about 300 soldiers, but I could see really far, make out the targets. I could think I can see further most of them, so I could hit the targets far away. And then it ended up different factions. There seemed to be like a Jesuit sort of bricks Mormon faction that just basically put a load of guns in our hands at the end of all the training, sent us off to places like New York for assassinations of capitalist billionaires.
Is that mainly who they would have you target on your personal missions?
Yeah, in New York, yeah. Like the usual names like Rothschild and things like that.
Oh
Uh,
my goodness.
I
Was
don't know
every,
because that's what happens in China now, whereas if the billionaires step out of line, they're kind of disappeared.
yes.
But in the Western imperialist powers, the billionaires still, or I won't say still, but definitely for the last few years, they run things where they can do what they want. But slightly, the system's slightly changing. It's because of the super soldier conditioning was brought up several notches, and then they just put guns in our hands and sent us to New York and things like that. It's because of that. That's why the geopolitical system has changed because of things like that.
Yeah. And so were you used as well as you got older in the programs? Did they switch you over a lot to the more assassination roles with military, or did they continue having you do the remote viewing and using your spiritual gifts?
They started to mix it up, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would help on things like that, on assassinations. If you could see what was going on in the building that you're just about to go into and things like that.
Do you know, you mentioned typically it was around 300 people at one time that you were around or that were in the
Mm.
same program as you. Were all of these 300 children, young adults, were they all being used in these programs, or were there just some of you and then there was people that were not programmed that you were
I
around?
don't, a lot of people were dropping out because the training was so difficult, but I think there was a core group that were Mormons, and they were being used in the programs, and they were the best. They were some of the best soldiers in the company, so they were superhuman levels of fitness and things like that. So they definitely sort of they passed out at the training. There's no way they were going to give up or it was going to break them. You know, that's what I mean.
And so
So
how did the Mormon Church, you mentioned that they were supplying things for you. Do you know any other connections that the government has to the Mormon Church that you were able to pattern and figure out in your experiences?
well, Bill Schnoebelen talks about the Mormon connection a lot because he was a Mormon at the same time as a Satanist and a third degree Freemason. And it's definitely, there's links with Missouri. They Mormons believe that that's the Garden of Eden. And
Wow.
there's link, and then you've got the March into Missouri, which is only the first person I've ever heard talk about that. As Kathy O'Brien, March into Missouri, which is a CIA program belief system where the Mormons believe that Jesus, during the last days, Jesus Christ would appear in Missouri and connect up with the leadership of the Mormon church. But you could easily argue that it's the last days now with all this these crazy things like the dog man and all things like that. Um, we could easily argue that, but are we coming at this from a religious perspective? I come at it from more of a materialist perspective.
And so for you, when did you start to really connect dots with your story and have memory recall where you started to question your whole life and what you grew up in as a child?
That was in 2006, and then I started to go public then. I did my first interview with a guy called Dave Starbuck. And then from there, went to some conferences, the Probe International Conference in Blackpool up north, and really started to piece it all together at that point, you know.
Yeah. Why did you decide to go public, especially so soon after remembering?
Well, I'd gone public in my late 20s. I don't know if I'm like, was the youngest whistleblower that had come out. And then, but years later, with time, and you're able to really put it all into context and connect the dots.
Yeah.
If you can survive that long.
Yeah. Did you meet other people at the time that were in the program with you that also came out as whistleblowers, or did you do this
Yeah.
mostly alone?
I did it mostly alone, but I did meet a couple of people, a handful of people in the UK, and I met Gridkeeper and Sahale, two guys from Sussex who were at the crash retrieval, Goodwood, Goodwood Sussex crash retrieval site. And but Sahale was injured in Brighton, and he says that he spent years in bed. He had an entity wrapped around his spine. And I think he was at a wedding and he went to pick something up and couldn't get back up, couldn't straighten his back. He ended up in hospital. They said, we're going to have to do emergency surgery on your spine. And there was something wrapped around his spine like a kind of snake thing that had been living there. And they removed it, and all his vertebrae were damaged, and that took place in Brighton and the Brighton Hospital. They said a team of American specialists came in to do the operation, and had like Delta Force logos on their t-shirts. And he says he was underground in the hospital, in Brighton Hospital, and I think there's photographs floating around of him underground in the hospital, and I think they might have let him even photograph the entity in the jar that they removed from his spine on his phone. I think those set of photographs are out there somewhere, but I don't think they've been released yet.
That's incredible that you were able to get so much validation from some other people who had come forward to testify that they went through and experienced things that were very similar or the same to you at these different locations that you were testifying at that same time. What was the response from people back then whenever you first started sharing? Because that was a whole different time than now. People still
Yeah,
have a hard time believing it, but what did you experience back then when you started talking out?
it was, you came up against a lot of resistance, but it's gone like mainstream now, isn't it, with the UAP movement and the Congress and all these new media channels on your smart TV, like what is it, iTube or Tube I? I've never even heard of this stuff before, and they're just all these new mainstream channels popping up, and it's all UAP stuff. It's like briefing beginners on the UAP stuff. So it's definitely easier these days. It was difficult back then.
Totally. And you
You
even,
were being criminalized back then. The government decided, oh, we should target them, the whistleblowers, and criminalize them. But now the policy seems to have changed, and it's like the opposite. Oh, don't criminalize them, support them.
yeah, it's like a whole different day that we live in now. There's still a lot of resistance to it, but it's not quite the same as before, where it's just completely buried and hard to find information on. And
Mm.
it's not as rare now for whistleblowers to come forward. There's so many more now. And that's because people like you back then had the courage to do it. It gave other people courage over time to do it too.
Yeah, yeah, definitely more people are coming forward. So.
Absolutely. And a couple other things that you've testified are these different, you even came out knowing and remembered some of these project names that people had never heard of back then. Project IBIS, Project Mannequin. I mean, you had, a lot of intel that I'm sure was really hard for people to believe even then. And people now still don't know what those programs are. Could you give a little overview of what Project
Um,
Mannequin and
well,
IBIS were?
with IBIS, I had a lot of the information being given to me from a high level guy down in Oak Ridge,
Oh,
worked for the CIA and Department of Energy, and he had access to some of my files. He was able to give me a lot of the IBIS stuff and the connections with Canada and talk about that the IBIS will change its name to Corona. He told me that back in when the Agent Buried Alive book came out back around 2009. He said IBIS will change its name to Corona, and I that went public to hundreds of thousands of people read that book. So that was validated.
yeah. And
But
then,
yeah, a lot of the releases were coming out of Oak Ridge and the Department of Energy, which
and
is
what was IBIS if you had to summarize what that project actually was?
um, I would say I'm tempted to say super soldier program and alien stuff, but I mean, there's so much space junk floating around out there. I'm tempted to call it space junk, but it's not. It's high value tech, but it's really old. It's really ancient, and there's a lot of it is cryostasis. There's a lot of things in cryostasis. So the solar system isn't teeming with life. Definitely, it's pretty quiet out there. But that's not to say that there is definitely NHI and aliens. But so is it like a super soldier program, or is it putting alien hybrids into the community, or maybe aliens themselves into the community, the human community? That could possibly be a big part of it.
And what about Project Mannequin? What was that project?
That was more based at the Peasmore base, but that was all the same things,
Okay.
assassinations, and it was, what all politicians do really. Once they start hitting middle age, they get young men to fight other powerful men for them.
And in your experience, did you see corruption across all governments that you sort of came in contact with in all these different countries? Do you believe that this is a global thing that governments are all involved in?
Um, I think their mindset is very much utilitarian. They believe in utilitarianism, whereas it's not, they don't really believe in evil so much or corruption. That if something's necessary for the greater good, then it's utilitarian. So the monstrous can be justified if it can bring a really high quality of life to a massive amount of people.
Yes.
Um, which so it's not so much good and evil, but you can't just be a monster. You can't just do monstrous acts. There has to be a reason for it,
Yes, absolutely. And, your
and
testimony too.
the reason is utilitarianism.
And your testimony too has touched on the drug trafficking.
Yeah.
We know what they're doing to children through your testimony, but we also see how, the war on drugs is another manufactured problem from our governments that
Mm.
they've basically handed those off to society, created the problem, and then they persecute people for it, but these children that are in these programs are highly involved with
Yeah.
helping the trafficking of these drugs.
Well, it's all changed now, hasn't it? You've got all the new opioids that have come out, like, and all these new types of drugs, and I would say that connects into these subliminal imaging programs that are connected to these Saturn cubes. And you just look at a billboard, you look at any media um, image, and there's a good chance there's going to be a subliminal image buried in there somewhere. And um, there's of a woman's large breasts or a phallic symbol. They're everywhere, and pictures of dog men's faces in there. If you just change the frequency of the image, you can pick it all out. And there's definitely the opioid epidemic and things is connecting people into that more, I would say, to be more influenced, maybe controlled by that sort of Saturn black cube stuff.
Really fascinating connection.
Not just drugs for the money. Yeah, I mean, the people say that they fought the Vietnam War so they could get the opium from the Far East to get the money to build Area 51. That wouldn't surprise me. But
100.
but there's more to the end game than just trafficking drugs for the sake of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you recall any politicians being involved with your specific testimony or different leaders or people in positions
Yeah,
of power?
definitely. But most of them are dead. It's
Yeah.
people like Bush Senior, Kissinger, Rumsfeld died recently. Pretty much all gone. There's a couple left, and yeah, I probably won't say there's two main guys left. Um, but they're getting really old now, so they must be really thinking about things. I'm having to do 48-hour remote viewing sessions because I'm so lost myself, and started to think, what's my place in the solar system? What's my place in life? And I come back to that philosophical idea of I think, therefore I am. Whereas I must exist, or else there couldn't be a me thinking whether I exist or not.
And so what conclusion have you come to? What is your purpose?
Um, Survive to the next stage, or just don't want to survive. Thrive
Yeah.
is better than just survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit
I
about,
think but just briefly, I think all these black cube and subliminal imaging things, I think it's supposed to affect your health ultimately. Well, I think it's actually supposed to raise your health levels up and
oh, be good for health.
give a real boost for the next phase of operations. And again, I don't want to get into psychological terms because I agree with Karl Popper that psychology is possibly a pseudoscience, but um, the, there's no getting away from the fact that the unconscious is preoccupied and obsessed with sex and death. And that's what's being pushed in all this I've just discussed on this podcast, and that's definitely affecting. I would say it's ultimately increasing health to get us ready for the next stage.
Interesting. That's, I mean, good because so many things that have been deployed on us have been terrible for our health and all of our immunities are down
Mm.
and the frequency of most people is very low. So that's encouraging that at least, there could be some help for that with,
It's almost like you probe into these particular topics that I've talked about
yeah.
today, and it's like you almost have a bad trip. You have like a bad ayahuasca trip or something, and it's horrible, but it ultimately your health is increased at the end of it.
That's really interesting. And so you have overcome a lot in your life. And one of the things was being targeted in a sense. And there's been a lot of speculation about your incarceration being a one way that happened. Could you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that phase of your life and, how you overcame that and what kept you going and then getting out?
I think the governments were targeting the whistleblowers as criminals, and they decided, right, we're going to criminalize them, anything they've ever done. Nobody's lived a completely pure life. Somebody's got some dirt somewhere on something. We're going to criminalize them. So I think I was part of that, and the sentence I was given was huge. And it was decided in a court of law later that it was massively excessive and had to be reduced, but it wasn't even reduced by that much. I ended up doing over half a decade. I did a degree in political science while I was in prison. It's called PPE, Politics, Philosophy, and Economics. But at the same time, going through having to fight hand to hand combat, bare knuckle for my life. So I'm sort of like universities combined with like Fight Club.
And what was life like for you when you got out? What encouraged you to keep being a whistleblower versus just saying, screw that, I'm gonna stop. I've done enough.
Some people in the government were trying to discourage me. Other people were trying to encourage me.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if they had decided a social policy on which way to go themselves.
right.
And then it definitely landed in the area of, right, okay, it looks like this is definitely happening. And I talk about this, I'm talking about the Atlas comet and things that are unavoidable in the future. And so, okay, support them, you know. Obviously, you're going to not have 100% support, but you don't need 100% support. You just need majority support, really.
And what is your mission with speaking out? What do you hope that your voice and your testimony and the things that you advocate for, how do you want that to transpire in the world?
Oh, that's a really big question. Just to keep shedding light on things, and like what I've done with this remote viewing session, this 48-hour ceremony. I mean, that's shedded a whole lot of light on a whole lot of things, and it's helped me to accept my place of what I'm doing in life itself, which is a healing thing. And if I can just keep getting things like that out there, just keep taking the pressure off me. Um, I can have like decent housing, decent health, and just hope I can just keep helping in that way. I think.
Have you been targeted since getting released from prison and speaking out again? Have you experienced that as well?
Yes and no, but enough. It's not like before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely yes and no question.
And for you, you're currently working on so many different projects and you have a lot of things that you've actually created and that are already out in the world, like books, music. I wanted you to talk a little bit about your inspiration for creating these different versions of art and getting
Mm.
into music and writing a book, and sort of share about the projects that you've done and are doing right now.
Well, I'm working with a local artist and writer here called Bob Osborne, and um, my main updates are on Bob Osborne's Zenna YouTube channel, and I'm doing. Well, I did a whole hip hop and R&B album when I came out of prison. It took me 2 or 3 years to complete the first album. And
Wow.
did that, put it all on a CD, and now we're working with Bob on the second album. And we're into track 2 of the second album, which is hip hop and R&B. Again, I was being targeted a little bit initially, so I thought just put it out in music. There's people still suggesting it would be a bad idea to go back on YouTube. Not really coming out saying it, but saying it might be. We had a few meetings, and it might be a bad idea for you to go back on YouTube. So, well, I said, okay, I'll just do the music.
Have
But
you
this was a
had
couple of years ago.
Yeah. Have you had a passion and talent for music for a long time in your life, or is that something more new that you've become
No,
passionate?
I've been rapping since I was a kid. I was like,
Really?
yeah, I was a DJ.
Oh, no way. How old were you when you
Yeah,
first started that?
like 13. I went to see NWA at Brixton Academy
No
in
way.
London. In London, I was 13,
Oh,
and
wow. Oh, my
I was
goodness.
used to organise rap dance competitions at school in Deanfield, and then I was a DJ at clubs in Cornwall, rap, hip hop, and R&B DJ here, and then, like I say, got into rapping itself and just did the first album, which is here.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's the first album, all done and dusted. And that's going out through Bob. That's Bob's book there, Xana Spirit of Place. So the album's out on Bob's channel, at the shop section of Bob's YouTube channel.
Okay.
And we're just into the second. We're working on the second album, which is called Killer for Life, which is the video has just come out of it, which is that.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah. It's
And
a
I'm going
good
to
little,
bring up on the screen, you have
it's a good little video that is.
there's the shop too that people can purchase all of this on the website that I said
Yeah,
somebody would share.
people people can get Bob's Zena book and the CD, and they get my rap name as Commander, which is an unusual spell. They can get the Commander caps and things like that.
And his mixtape, and this is at rebelnottaken.co.uk for people here in the US. And I'll have that linked below so you guys can go directly to the website. And maybe too, I'll link Bob's YouTube channel too. That way people can check out
Okay.
updates because that's where you said you're putting most of your personal video
Yeah,
updates,
but
right?
in my book, Agent Buried Alive Part Two, Escape from Tartarus, is supposed to be coming out on through Bob and his channel at some point. So that's Agent Live Part Two, Agent Buried Alive Part Two.
And you have a YouTube channel, James Casbolt Commander, with the spelling that we were just talking about with the
Yeah,
K.
yeah,
And then this also documents a lot of the music that Bob has been also showcasing.
yeah. And there's a couple of music videos, and
I love it.
that's got more of the. It's got the we made 4 albums for the for the first album. Made four videos for the first album. Some of the videos are there, and it's also some of the new stuff from the second album is there. So
Do you have a preference, rap or R&B, or do you love them both equally the
I
same?
prefer R&B. I prefer being an R&B singer, but it's so much harder to sing than rap.
Oh, really?
It's much easier to rap. I sometimes dread the R&B sessions.
And so you've come to love actually doing rap is a little bit easier to do, but you have such a deep love for R&B.
Yeah, because I kind of preferred R&B. I like Belle Biv DeVoe and things like that. In the 90s, growing up, I got all their stuff on vinyl, like collector's items, which are worth like £400 and things.
Oh, wow.
And so I always preferred R&B, like Johnny Gill and things like that. But I love rap as well. So yeah. But I don't know whether I'm getting a bit old to be rapping. You can be an R&B or soul singer at any age. Like Tom Jones was doing it in his mid 80s. So.
I think you can defy the odds with any of it and be, a rapper, be whatever you want for as
Oh,
long as you
thank you,
want.
Emma. That's good encouragement to carry on rapping. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so you, like I said, you have your own YouTube channel. You can just type in Commander James Casbolt into your search. There's not many people that have the spelling or his name, so it's pretty easy to find his channel. But if you want the handle, it's at James Casbolt Commander, which is Komander. So you guys can
Yeah.
type that in YouTube. And his channel specifically focuses on his music with some of the music videos, teasers for what's coming up. It's purely his music channel. It's not where you're going to find his podcasts. It's not where you're going to find his personal vlogging updates. That will be on Bob's channel, which I'll have James send me, and I'll also post that. That way you guys can follow that channel as well and see what's coming up for James and get more personal updates from him.
Yeah, it's only a little channel, the Commander channel, but I'll leave a comment below this video when it comes out, and then
Perfect.
to say hi everyone, and then people can click on that.
Absolutely. And of course, survivors are very targeted. They are extremely resourceful themselves, but unfortunately, whistleblowing comes with having a lot of resources, money, opportunities stripped away from you. And we hear
Mm.
this time and time again. And one of the best things that we can do to support survivors, and I get so many people that ask me, how can I support? Is if they have, say, a YouTube channel, if they have music, if they have a book, if they have a service, to go support it, go buy it, go work with them, go subscribe to their channel. It's a really easy thing to do. And so if you guys have it in your heart you're looking for somewhere to donate or a survivor that you want to support their work and get their books or buy some merch, please go to the website. Do you guys ship to America and other countries as well?
Yeah, Bob does it. Bob takes
Cool.
care of the caps and the CDs. But yeah, he ships over to America, and I think yeah.
Wonderful. So anybody can, from any country, can pretty much
I
go on
know,
here.
I know it's a bit old-fashioned to ship CDs and DVDs across to other countries these days, but we just wanted to do it the old-fashioned, like DJ 90s way, and then
Absolutely.
eventually the stuff will come out on the. We'll do it more the modern way. It'll come out on the big platforms like Spotify and iTunes and Apple
Yeah,
Music eventually, but we're just kind of just getting it out as a taster really at the moment. It's early days.
that's
But I think Bob's book did really well, and there was a film to go with it, and that was actually on the big movie screen, the cinema down here in Penzance.
oh wow.
That was at the cinema, yeah, along with all the big major films like I think Barbie at the time.
Okay.
So yeah, Bob's book and film did well. So yeah,
And then your book, whenever it actually does go online for people to purchase, that will be on this website as well, right?
that'll probably be through Bob's shop.
Okay. And so again, that is rebelnottaken.co.uk. I'm going to have that and right on the online shop, you guys can see all of these different items. And if you're interested in any of other of Bob's work, he has all of his work on here and he has plenty of other tabs you guys can click on. And he has a contact tab. So if you guys have a specific question about ordering, James is, if you guys live in a country that you're wondering about shipping, or if you guys have a question about purchasing James mixtape or his cap, you guys can go ahead and hit the contact and just reach out to Bob and ask him your questions and he can help you with your order.
Yeah, because basically when I came out of prison, I needed help to go public again. I was carrying too much weight to do it by myself. So
Absolutely.
Bob, I couldn't have really done it without Bob.
Bob,
And
thank
he
you. I
looked,
don't know you, but I'm going to thank you for helping James get his bearings and help him keep his testimony alive and keep whistleblowing. We're grateful
yeah,
for you.
Bob helped, and he lives in Zana, which is nearby anyway. It's only down the road, so.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Are you on social media anywhere else that people could go connect with you?
Yeah, I'm only on Instagram and YouTube. That's it.
And Instagram, it is Commander, the same spelling Komander dot official. And you
Yeah,
guys can go follow James here. And you post on here pretty frequently. And this is also a good way if people want to connect with you directly, they can message you here and
yeah,
with you.
yeah. I received quite a few messages. So yeah, I've just got Instagram and YouTube.
Okay, perfect. And is there anything else that you're working on or any other ways that people can support you?
Well, just that really. That's what the projects are at the moment, and that's what I'm doing. That's the plans for the future. So yeah.
Well, we would love to have you on again. I'm really grateful and honored to have you on. Like I said, you were one of the first testimonies, one of the first male voices that I found talking about this in my own journey. And I know a lot of people stumbled on your older interviews and they're awakening too. And they're like, what's going on? Scouring the internet, looking for information, and up pops up your interview. So, it's awesome to sort of have this moment of getting to have you on the show and getting to share where you are today and letting people know that you're still here, you're still whistleblowing, they can get in contact with you and that you're working on books and projects. So I'm really grateful and I appreciate you coming on today. Was there anything else that you wanted to share regarding any of the topics that we talked about today before
I
we wrap
can't
up?
think. I can't think of anything.
Perfect. Okay. Well, like I said, I'd love to have you back on. There's so much of your story that I think is just really important information for people to know. But if you are a subscriber to my channel, you can go back in my library. I have actually posted one of James' epic interviews. It was the first one that I saw. I posted it on my channel so you guys can go see his whistleblowing sort of around the time that he first started. It's really neat listening to that.
That's yeah. That's when I first heard about you when you posted that.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. You were in the chat that night whenever that video aired, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Really cool. I'm glad that we found each other. And like I said, it's an honor to have you on. So we'll definitely look forward to having you back. For people listening, I'll have all James' information down below in the show notes in the description. So you guys, no matter what platform you're on, just go down and click the hyperlink. It'll take you to Bob's website. It can take you to James' Instagram or his YouTube. I suggest and really, really encourage you guys to go support him on all three of those platforms. get his mixtape, get a cap from him if you can. Reach out to Bob if you're having any questions with ordering, and he can probably and most likely help you directly. Go support James on Instagram. Go subscribe on YouTube, interact with his videos, share them on your social media platforms, encourage other people to go support him. Really great ways that we can support survivors is just by being there for them and supporting them, getting eyes on them, and helping them grow their businesses, their work, and their art. So I'll have all my information below to you guys. Connect with me wherever you can. And we could not do this without you guys. Thank you guys for all of your love and support. God bless you all, and we will see you next time.